Hi book fans, welcome back. Happy 4th of July week. I'm excited to share 2 new books with you this week. I've done a lot of reading and I've got 2 really great books to share. And I want to talk also about some organization that I've changed in our house, so all of my books are in one spot instead of having book stacks everywhere around the house. So let's get into it. The first book I want to share with you is Real Friends by Shannon Hale, and this is a graphic novel, and I absolutely love reading graphic novels. I think they're the perfect summertime read. It's perfect genre to get you out of a reading slump. If you want to read something fast, quick, picking up a graphic novel or a comic is a great way to keep you reading throughout the summer. This book, Real Friends, is about Shannon, and I think it's loosely based on her life growing up, and she just wants to have one really good friend. She knows that if she has one really good friend, then she'll be happy. And she meets that friend, Adrian, when she's in 2nd grade, and they're inseparable until they get to like 3rd or 4th grade, and then all of a sudden Adrian starts hanging out with the in crowd, and sometimes Shannon doesn't know if they're still friends or if she's a part of that in crowd, that clique, or if she's not part of that group. So she's always dealing with really frustrating dynamics with her friendships, and she sometimes just feels like this isn't worth it. I don't want to be friends with all of these girls, and she wants to kind of start her own group, but she doesn't know if she's brave enough to do that because she doesn't want to be alone. At the same time, she's also kind of trying to figure out where she fits in her family. She has, I think, 4 or 5 brothers and sisters, and she's not really sure who she gets along with best in her family because she's kind of the middle child, and there's nobody close to her age that she can hang out with and play with. This story really hit home for me. I think friendships are always hard to deal with when you're a middle grade student, when you're upper elementary into middle school, especially coming into middle school, because your friendships really start to change. So I definitely recommend checking this book out over the summer. It's a great read, Real Friends. The next book I want to share with you is This Is Our Story by Elston. This was published in 2016 and is a mystery. I don't normally read mystery books. It's not a genre that I pick up very often, but this book, oh my gosh, I could not put it down. I finished this book in one day. I probably would have binge read it if I didn't have other things going on in my schedule, because I could not stop turning the pages because I wanted to know who committed the crime. Before I tell you the summary of the story, I do want to say that this is a PG-13 recommendation for me. There is some mention of drinking and drug use. It's not very blatant, but it's mentioned throughout the story. There's also some inappropriate language. So this is something I recommend to my 8th graders and to high schoolers. It is on the Troy School District high school reading list also. So in this story there are 5 boys called the River Point Boys, and they are hanging out, and after a night of partying they decide to go hunting. And while they're out hunting, one of the boys gets shot, and the other 4 boys don't know who did it and won't confess that they were the one that shot Grant, the character that passed away. And so they kind of form a pact that they're going to stick together and they're not going to say anything about what happened when they were hunting that morning or at the party the night before, and see what happens. As they're trying to figure out this case, Kate, the main character, is determined to find out which of those boys pulled the trigger and whether this was an accidental shooting or if it was done on purpose. And as she starts digging into their lives, she's uncovering all of these secrets and finding out things about the boys that have been kept pretty quiet. And this is a story where you honestly can guess throughout the whole thing of who you think did it, and you will be so surprised at the end. Because I think I probably went through 3 or 4 people that I kept saying, oh, I think it's probably this person, and then I was totally wrong. So I was very surprised at the end, and again, it is a total page turner, a great read if you love mystery. Even if you don't, I highly recommend This Is Our Story, and you'll have to let me know what you think if you do read it or if you have read it. The books I'm planning on picking up next, I wanted to share with you. I'm still working on listening to the audiobook for The Colossus Rises, which is a book I mentioned in my last video. It is kind of a Percy Jackson type story where a boy discovers he has some sort of powers, and as I'm getting further into the story, I'm realizing that it has some connections to the Michael Vey story as well. Or I shouldn't say connections, but it sounds more like the Michael Vey story. So if you've read that series, you might actually really like this also. So I'm listening to this, and hopefully I'll have an update for you on that pretty soon. I'm also going to start reading this book, Frog Kisser, and I hear it's kind of a humorous fairy tale with kind of a heroine who sets off to protect herself from her evil stepfather who wants to take over the kingdom. So I'm excited and looking forward to reading this fantasy book that has kind of a fairy tale twist to it. So that's Frog Kisser. And then the last book that I'm really excited to start reading is a book that keeps popping up on all of the major book award lists, and it's The Hate U Give. And this story is by Angie Thomas. And from what I understand, I haven't started it yet, but a 16-year-old girl who lives in a poorer neighborhood but attends a kind of a richer prep school, one day sees her friend get killed by a police officer in her community. And it kind of stirs up outrage, almost a Black Lives Matter movement type story here. And she becomes a pivotal person in the midst of this battle in her community. And so this story has been getting lots of reviews and nominations for different awards, and so I'm so excited to get into this book and hopefully have it on my classroom shelf this fall. If you guys have any books that you want to share with me, please leave comments below. If you've read any of the books that I'm currently reading or just finished, please send me your thoughts. I'd love to hear, and keep checking in. Thank you for being with me, and signing off from the YA Book Fairy. Thanks.